Now, we'll follow the same steps as we did in part A. First, by converting this percent, 29%, into a decimal. If we do that, it's going to be 0.29, or 29 hundredths, to say it properly. Of, once again, means times 316. So we'll have to find 29 hundredths, or 0.29, times 316. And if I go to my calculator, I find that the answer to that is 91.64. So essentially what this is meaning is that 91.64 people, train their cats not to jump on furniture. Now, just like we talked about in the previous problem, we can't have a part of a person, right? We can either have 91 people, or in this case, just like what I did before, I'm going to round it up to 92 people. Because basically what this is saying, more than 91 people train their cats not to claw furniture, but maybe not quite 92. So let's say 92 owners. And remember, with these problems, it's also asking us to predict it. That didn't really highlight too well, did it? Use a different color. I'm learning new stuff every day here. We'll try this. That's a really key word though, predict. So when they say that, it's basically saying give your best guess. It's okay if you don't have the answer exactly correct. Okay, finally we'll move on to number 7. Before we do that, I'm just going to quickly erase my work here from problem number 6, so I have a little space to write. This will give you maybe a chance to look at question number 7 and get started reading it. Okay. And I'll also set up my colors back to where they were before too. Oh, actually, I kind of like that one. I might use that one instead. Okay. Number 7, it says, make a prediction. The school librarian recorded the types of books students checked out on a typical day. Suppose there are 605 students enrolled at the school. Predict the number of students that prefer humor books and compare this to the number of students who prefer nonfiction. So there are a couple of things that we have to do. First off, we have to predict the number of students that prefer humor books. Actually, predict humor books. And then we're going to compare that to nonfiction. Okay. Now, this problem is a little bit different than the previous problem that we did because they only give us a part of that 605 total students that they listed. So pretend, for example, if somebody went around school and they took a survey, they don't maybe ask every single person in the school, but they ask enough people to try to get some accurate data. So what we'll have to do is add up and find the sum of all of the people, or the total number of people surveyed. So if we look here, they had, and I'm going to just highlight these numbers, 13 preferred humor, 8 preferred nonfiction, 15 preferred mystery, 6 preferred romance, ooh la la, and 13 preferred adventure. Okay, so what we'll do is find the sum of all of those surveys that were taken. So we'll add 13 and 8 and 15 and 6 and then 13 again. Now I'm going to just quickly add this up right here. So 3 plus 8 is 11, plus 5 is 16, plus 6 is 22, plus 3 is 25. 2 up there. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus another 1 is 5. So we know that there were 55 students that were asked this survey. Okay? Remember, there are 605 total students in the school. That information was given to us when we read the problem. Okay, so of the 55 students that were surveyed, we can see that 13 of them preferred humor books. So I'm going to just create a little bit of space here and erase some of my work. I'm going to write 55 total up here just so I don't forget. Oops. It's a little bit sensitive. I don't know why it's doing that. Here, I'm just going to lower that. Okay. Okay, so we see that 55 students were surveyed. I'm just going to write that down. Okay, of those 55 that were surveyed, we know that 13 out of the 55, oops, I made a mistake there, 13 out of the 55 preferred humor books. So I'm going to just quickly divide that on my calculator because it's a fraction, 13 out of 55. And I get kind of a long decimal. It looks like it is 0.236. So what I'm going to do is just round that up to 0.24. We're going to round it to the nearest hundredth. Okay. So out of all of the people or all of the students that were surveyed, we know that about 0.24, or we could change this to a percent, 24% prefer humor books. So we're going to take this decimal and we're going to multiply it times the total number of students that are enrolled in the school. So if we look back at our problem, remember there are 605 students total. So we know that 24% of those students, or I'm just going to quickly write it like this, 0.24 times 605. That number of students prefer humor books. Once again, I'm going to go back to my calculator and write this out. 0.24 times 605. That gives me about 145 students, or 145.2 I got, but just like we talked about in the last problem, we can't really have a part of a human being, or a part of a student, part of a person. So we're just going to keep it at 145, and round that down. 145 prefer humor. Okay, the last part that this problem is asking us to do is to compare this number, or to the number of students at the school who prefer nonfiction. So let's just find the number of students that prefer nonfiction. Remember that we have 55 total that were surveyed. I'm just going to erase some of this work. And if we look at our graph, we can see that fewer students preferred nonfiction to humor. So we should automatically be thinking in our minds that there are going to be fewer students or less students that prefer nonfiction. More students prefer humor. Okay. So we know that 8 out of the 55 students surveyed prefer nonfiction. I'm going to change that into a decimal again. 8 divided by 55, if I go to my calculator, is 0.145. So instead of writing 0.145, I'm just going to once again round to the nearest hundredth. 0.145. We'll round that up to 0.15. Okay. That'll give us our number to multiply. So we can take 0.15 times 605 students that are enrolled. That gives us about 90.75 students. But we can't have 90.75 students. We can either have 90 students or we can round that up to 91 students. So I'm going to just actually round that up to 91. Erase that and write 91. So we know 91 prefer nonfiction. I'm just going to write NF for nonfiction. Okay, so this takes us through the problems on page 797. Please try to do these problems on your own. If you are stuck, by all means, you can use the answers that I've given you in this video. Write those down and then take a picture of your work. If you're able to upload that picture onto Mr. Bagniefski's Google Classroom, that would be fantastic. If not, please either send him an email or send me an email of that picture, just so we can see that you've gotten the first assignment done. All right, I know that was a lot. I thank you for sticking with me and watching this video. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions on this.